Hello students, welcome to KENE'S Educare, a group of KENE solutions. This is part 6 of lesson tissue. So if you all remember, in part 5 we discussed on meristematic tissue and you can say permanent tissue, which are of two types, right? So we have simple permanent tissue that we have discussed in detail, and we have complex permanent tissue that we discussed, right? So these are the two types of permanent tissue that we have discussed, and like here we completed with the plant tissue in detail, and after that we started our discussion on animal tissue where we have completed our study on epithelial tissue, right? So before I proceed with the next tissue that we have, that is connective tissue, I want each one of you to please revise whatever notes you have taken with respect to the lesson tissues, starting from part 1 till part 5, whatever you have written in your book. Everyone please revise each and everything that you have. I hope everyone has started revising whatever notes you have in your book. So I'm going to show you all the slides one by one that we have studied so far. Okay, you have to like check your notes whether you have written it or not, and like here the revision will be, if there is an activity given, you know how to revise it. You have to tell it by yourself what will be the procedure for carrying out the activity, what will be the observation, explanation and conclusion for that activity. Okay, so I want every one of you to do that once I start showing you each and every slide, and revise each and every point that has been given on screen. So we have started this tissue lesson by discussing on tissue itself. So here we have information on tissue, that it is a group of cell having similar structure and function. So I want you all to please go through this slide quickly, and whenever you write about tissues, make sure you draw the diagram as well. Then we started discussing whether animal and plant tissue are they made up of same type of tissues or they are made up of different types of tissue. So here we have the differences which have been given. I want you all to be quick with that as well. Here also we have some of the differences between animal tissue and plant tissue which has been given. So I want you all to be please read this as well and also compare it with the notes that you have made. See, like you can get a direct question on differentiate between animal tissue and plant tissue. So both the slides are going to help you a lot while differentiating between animal and plant tissue. Then we started with plant tissue, and here we have information on plant tissue. The first type of plant tissue that we have is meristematic tissue, and on the basis of location, meristematic tissues are located at three different regions, and on the basis of that they are named as apical meristem, intercalary meristem, and lastly we have lateral meristem. Okay, so I just want you all to please go through the slide quickly. I hope everyone is reading all the important points, like we have the even the function, how exactly is the structure of meristematic tissue, where is the exact location of the meristematic cell. Every information has been given on screen. I want each one of you to please be thorough with plant tissue at least, because we have completed everything about it, right? And whenever you write about meristematic tissue, make sure you're drawing the structure and showing the location of each and every meristematic tissue, okay? So now you need to revise it by telling the procedure on your own, by telling the observation, explanation, and conclusion to this activity. Okay, and whatever questions that you can see on screen, you have to answer them. And how will you come to know that you have understood it? If you are able to answer all the questions on screen, it means you have understood the meristematic tissue. Okay. After this, we discussed on permanent tissue in detail. So I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. And even whenever you're writing on permanent tissue, you have to draw this diagram showing the guard cell, stroma, chloroplast, vacuole, each and every organelle which can be seen on the screen. I hope everyone is going through it. And the definition of differentiation is very commonly asked, so make sure you know how to define differentiation. Okay, after that we discussed on this activity 2.6.2 where we have, you can say, the section of the stem which has been given, and all the points have been all are been labeled as well, so I want you all to please go through it quickly. And you know what, how the question can be asked over here is they can give you the section of the stem the same way they have given over here, and you will be asked to label them. That kind of question can also be asked, so be prepared with all the points. Okay, and if you are writing about this, make sure you know the diagram as well. Okay, section of a stem is again an important question. That's why I'm focusing on it. After this, we discussed on simple permanent tissue in detail. So now you know that simple permanent tissues are of three different types. We have parenchyma, we have collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and then we studied if they have chlorophyll present in them, then we know it as chlorenchyma, and if they have larger cavity present in them, then that is called as erenchyma. So what is erenchyma, collenchyma, parenchyma? Everything has been asked as a 1 marks question, or they will ask you to write about simple permanent tissue for a brief one. Okay, so make sure you know it. And even you should be knowing the structure. Because of that you will come to know whether any intercellular spaces are present, whether they have vacuole nucleus present in them or not. Okay. Then here we have the information on every point that has been given. So I just want you all to please go through it. There. After this, like here we have this sclerenchymatous tissue which have been shown, and then we discussed on this activity 6.3. So I just want you all to please go through it quickly. So sorry. After this, here we have the brief explanation on that activity which has been given, along with the figure 6.5 where we have the guard cells, the epidermal cells, the stoma, everything which has been labeled properly in the structure, right? So I want you all to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed about the epidermal cell in detail. So I just want you all to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on complex permanent tissue. So I just want you all to please go through it quickly, and even about xylem and phloem. Okay. These are all important questions that I'm showing you and I'm telling you to revise. And revision is because you should not add on extra time from your end, okay? And that is why I tell you to revise once I start with it, because I know none of the student revises before the class. So this is what I have to do. So I hope everyone is going through it properly. I hope everyone is going through it. And even you have to go through the tracheids, vessels, xylem, parenchyma, because this is what are parts of xylem, right? And the phloem has the sieve tube, sieve plate, phloem, parenchyma, companion cell, right? So here we have information about xylem and the phloem which has been given. So I want you all to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on animal tissues in detail. So I want each one of you to please go through it quickly. After this, we discussed on epithelial tissue. So I just want each one of you to please go through it. I hope you all are going through the different types of epithelium tissues. So now we will be studying about connective tissue. So see, now blood and bone, these are the two different types of connective tissue that we are going to discuss over here in detail. And as I already told you that two examples of connective tissue, very best example are, one is blood and the other one is the bone. So blood is a type of connective tissue, and why would it be called as connective tissue? So here, like while we have like introduced the lesson, a group of cell having same structure and function together, they have been termed as tissue, right? And because these tissues are connecting towards each other, and they are loosely spaced, embedded in an intercellular matrix, this is what is like making them called as connective tissue. Okay, so the intercellular matrix that has been present in the blood, they are like jelly like fluid, dense or rigid, and the nature is in accordance with the function of the particular connective tissue. So whosoever the connective tissue is, the matrix, the nature of the matrix is going to define the function in accordance with the, you can say, with the specific connective tissue that has been needed. Okay, so blood has a fluid liquid matrix, and we call that fluid liquid matrix as plasma. And inside this plasma, we have red blood corpuscles, we have white blood corpuscles, and we have platelets. Okay, so we know that you can say red blood corpuscles, the most important function of red blood corpuscles is what it is. It is to transport oxygen to each and every cell of your body, right? Then the most important function of white blood corpuscles is, if any bacteria is entering your body, white blood cells are going to come and attack those bacteria, and it is going to prevent you from diseases and infections. And lastly, we have platelets. Now suppose if you get a cut, you start bleeding, right? So that bleeding needs to be stopped, and that happens because of the coagulation of the blood, which has been done by the platelets present in the plasma of the blood. Okay, so the plasma contain, along with this RBC, WBC and platelet, it has protein, salt and hormones present in it. Okay, so blood flows and transport gases, digested food, hormones, waste material to different parts of the body. And this is what like they have mentioned about blood. Then the next thing that we have is bone. Now bone is again an example of connective tissue, because it is going to flow and transport gases, digested food, waste material, hormones to different parts of the body, right? That was with respect to blood. Now bone, you might have studied skeletal system in your previous classes, right? We know that the skeletal system is made up of bones, joints, right? So bones, they work as a structural framework to our body. It supports our body, so it is going to anchor the muscles and support the main organs of the body. It is a strong and a non-flexible tissue. So because it is strong and non-flexible, you're able to move your hands because of the bones and the muscles present in it, right? So bones are embedded in a hard matrix, and that hard matrix is composed of calcium and phosphorus compound. What is the bone cell composed of? Calcium and phosphorus compound, and two bones can be connected to each other by another type of connective tissue, and we know that other type of connective tissue as scar as ligament. So we will be like further studying about ligament and cartilage as well. But before we start with that, I want each one of you to please write all the important points about blood and bone from this slide. I hope everyone is writing the information from screen. I hope everyone is writing about blood and bone. Okay, so now we'll study about like once we are done with this. Now see all the tissues that we have in our body, like because we are generally discussing about connective tissue. So connective tissues are very elastic. It has considerable strength And we have like ligaments. We know that two bones are joined together with the help of ligaments. So what are ligaments now? So as compared to you can say bone, ligament will have very little matrix and it is going to connect the bone with bone. Okay, and then we have about tendons. Tendons are going to connect the muscles to bone, and they are another type of connective tissue. What this tendons will do, tendons are going to connect muscles to bone, and this are other type of connective tissue that we have. So tendons are fibrous tissue with great strength, but they have limited flexibility. Okay, now we know tendons are connecting the muscle to the bone. They have this great strength, but they are limited flexible. They are not that flexible. Okay, and then another type of connective tissue we have studied about blood and bone. The other type of connective tissue that we have in our body is the cartilage. And always remember that the ears that we have, okay, it is the only cartilage which is very smooth and like you can even fold it as well, right? But we cannot bend like we can fold the cartilage of the ears, but we cannot bend the bones in our arms. So think of how the two tissues are different, like when it comes to this cartilage and the blood tissue. See, here we have one type of tissue as areolar connective tissue. Now, this areolar connective tissue has been found between the skin and the muscles, then around the blood vessels and the nerves, and in the bone marrow as well. Where are this areolar connective tissues found? Between skin and muscle, around the blood vessels and nerves, and in the bone marrow as well. So this areolar connective tissue, wherever it has been present, it is going to fill the space inside the organ. Now our organs, like they have some space within them, so it has been filled up by the areolar connective tissue. It is again going to support the internal organ and help in repair of tissue. So where are fats stored in our body? It, any one of you are aware of? So we have this fat storing adipose tissue. One type of connective tissue is areolar connective tissue. Other type that we have is fat storing adipose tissue, which has been found below the skin and between the internal organ. Where is this stored? Fat storing adipose tissue found between the skin and the internal organ. Okay, so the cells of this tissue, they are been filled with fat globules. What are they filled with? Fat globules, and storage of fat also lets it act as an insulator. So wherever the fat has been stored, it is acting as an insulator for our body. I hope every one of you are writing it. I hope every one of you are writing it with respect to ligaments, tendons, about the areolar connective tissue, about the fat storing tissue. I hope every one of you have written it. Now we have this activity 6.4. So what we need to do over here is we need to take a drop of blood on a slide and observe the different cells present in it under a microscope. So what do you think what you will be able to see under the microscope when you observe? When you observe it under the slide, do you think that it will look like what are the, you can say, components which you will be finding in the blood? So we just now studied that we will have red blood corpuscles, we will have white blood corpuscles, and lastly we will have platelets which are present, right? And we know the red blood corpuscles are important for us because they transport oxygen to each and every cell of our body. Then white blood corpuscles, they are going to they are going to, if any bacteria or anything enters bad for our body, if it enters our body, what will happen? It is going to destroy that bacteria, right? It is going to prevent us from diseases and infection. And lastly, the platelets that we have in our body, the platelets are going to coagulate the blood, which makes it which stops the blood flow, right? Okay, so now in the next class I'm going to start with muscular tissue in detail. Okay, and like we will study on which are the different types of muscular tissue present in our body, what is the function that they perform. Okay, so we'll discuss about muscular tissue in detail, and after that we have this activity 6.5 which we will discuss in detail again, where we have three types of muscular tissues which have been given, which includes striated muscular tissue, smooth muscular tissue, and cardiac muscular tissue, right? So we'll discuss on that, and lastly we have nervous tissue to discuss in detail, so we'll be doing that as well. And this is how after discussing about the nervous tissue we'll be ending up with the lesson, and after this we have a short summary discussion of exactly whatever we have learned in the whole lesson tissue. We'll just discuss it over here in short, and I want you all to please go through the summary quickly once now itself, because we are almost done. We are just left with muscular tissue and nervous tissue. So maybe most probably in two more parts we will be completing with this lesson as well. Okay. So after this we will be discussing on few 15 exercise questions that we have. So I'm going to show you the questions one by one, and I want you all to just go through them so that you are ready with the answers in your mind once we start discussing the exercise as well. Okay. So this is how we will be ending up with the lesson tissue, and I hope whatever we have discussed in this part and so far in the lesson, you're clear with each and everything. Now whatever has been left, that is muscular tissue, nervous tissue, then we have summary discussion, and lastly we have exercise questions, right? So I'll be continuing with them in the next class, okay, in the next part. But I want each one of you to be clear with each and everything that we are studying so far. It should not be that you're not clear with the concept and we are moving on further. Okay, so for that you need to revise a lot. Okay, so I'll end this part over here, and I'll continue whatever has been left in the next part. Thank you everyone.